Hello. Hope everything's going well with you guys. We're going to continue immigration here. Now we are on to Angel Island, and Angel Island is where the Asian immigrants came to. One, it's not as big, and two, it's not as welcoming. We actually made it very difficult for Chinese immigrants to come into the United States. We basically didn't want them, so we did everything in our power to get them deported back home. We actually left them there for days or weeks in very poor living conditions, not a lot of food, not a lot of water. Basically, it was just really, really bad at Angel Island. The questions were more difficult. The screenings that we just watched were very difficult for them to pass and stuff. So we made it very difficult for Asian immigrants, specifically Chinese, to come into the United States. So here you see some pictures. These are Asian women coming into the United States. On the left here, this is at Angel Island here. You can see this guy here is basically watching this. This is where the immigrants are coming in. This is one of the boats. Some of the difficulties they faced at Angel Island, the inspections were very difficult for them to pass. Basically, if the doctors or inspectors thought they had something wrong with them, they treated them as having something wrong with them, and then they would get deported back home. The questioning was very, very harsh. They would be detained or put into a detention if they didn't answer the questions in the way that they liked. So it was very, very different than what was at Ellis Island. Now, we're moving away from the immigrants and how they got here and where they came from and stuff. And now we're transitioning into what was it like for the immigrants once they got into the United States. Well, one thing that we wanted them to do was we wanted them to assimilate into our culture. That means adopt our culture and customs. We didn't want them to speak their own language. We didn't want them to dress their own way, eat their own foods, those types of things. We wanted them to come to America and be just like us. That's why we say things today like, you're in America, speak English, which, like I've said before, doesn't make a lot of sense when you're in one country and you're speaking the language of another. You're basically supporting their argument for immigrants having their own thing. We also get something called ethnic enclaves. This is where immigrants would stay in a neighborhood with people that were very similar to them. They would share the same language, religion, and culture. And an interesting fact is that by 1890, 80% of New York City was made up of immigrants. And you got a movie called Gangs of New York, which I'm going to show you some clips from, or actually you're going to watch clips. Assimilation in America became known as Americanization. Basically, we tried to, as a country, do things to, in the nicest way possible, help them learn our American ways. In essence, we were just trying to get them to change into our ways. We weren't doing it out of, hey, you guys, you need to learn this type of stuff. We were doing it, hey, we want you to learn these things. We want you to speak our language. We want you to have the same traditions and eat the same food, dress the same way, have the same holidays and customs and all that stuff. We get these Americanization institutions. We actually call them Americanization schools. And you would have adults come in and they would go into schooling to learn how to be an American. Children just went to regular school, and that's where they learned how to be an American. America at this time becomes known as the melting pot. And again, immigrants, this is what they would do, is they would actually stick with their native cultures, but the children of those immigrants, they were more likely to adopt the American ways, because we all know how mean kids can be, is that their life the children thought their life was easier if they adopted the American ways, where the adults were a little more stuck in their way and they kept their old customs and habits and things like that. In the next video, we're going to get into the idea of nativism, which is the idea that we don't like immigrants. We actually think we are superior and better than them. So we've heard of the term like racism. You don't like somebody of a certain race and you think your race is superior. So we're going to talk about that in the next video.